So today, subject of our lecture is arrays. Okay, arrays. So often students in first year of study, when they meet this subject and all following tasks, they feel kind of boring. Or come on, what's happening here? We play with some numbers. What the essence and meaning of that? Does it have any relation to real world, and does it have any relation to real programming? But I could say that it is kind of really have relation to real programming. So I will not show my IntelliJ environment now. I just switch to that. But yeah, I would like to talk with you about arrays. What is arrays? Arrays are just first definition of that. Let's say collections, okay? Data collections. So when we talk about string or integer or double, we have just one value. Put something in that value and work with that value everywhere. We know that variables is so important. We know that variables could be used as parameters to our black box. Our black box, our program or method could work with that parameter and give something to the outer world. Okay, wonderful. That's just amazing, and we really need that. But it is not enough to have just one, to manipulate just with one value. Because in real world applications, for example, again, let's take our messengers. Telegram, for example, or any other messenger. Okay, you have kind of this interface here. So you have many messages in this screen. When you develop your program, you don't know how many messages that a specific chat will have, right? Moreover, you have not only messages, but you have, for example, chats with different people or groups. And you also don't know exactly how many of that you will have in that application. So you could not just play with just I will create many strings here, and I will represent in that many as string 1, string 2, string 3, 4, 5, or 100, and I will put that every message to that string and will play with that. It is just impossible to predict how many variables you should have. You just need to have many strings here to represent that messages in your chat. You should have just storage, warehouse for that many strings, and in runtime, when you run your program, when user use your program, okay, that could be 1 message, 5 messages, 100 messages, and your program will still work because you abstractly use block of messages. And for the future, in advance, you could use any number of that messages here, any number of chats here, any number, and so on and so forth, any number of products on website, any number of pages, and so on. So we always work with collections in our real life programming. We always use some data. Okay, that's why arrays, it is just very starting, simple, maybe not so simple topic about collections. So we could put not just one string in variable, but we could put a number of strings into just one variable. That's really tricky and really interesting functionality to work with. So let me show you syntax for that. So I would like to create again array of strings. How I do that? The difference between creating just one variable, scalar variable with just one value, and string, array of string, it is these brackets. Then I call this variable somehow, let it be this bad name, I could say. And that's it at this point. So I just declare, by the way, you should know this word, declaration. Declaration, that is another very important term in programming. Declaration. So here we declare variable. It is declaration of variable. Okay, at this moment this variable is empty because no any value, we didn't assign any value, but it is how we create array, and here you see the difference between creating just one string and array of strings. Okay, let me create or let me just assign some value to this variable. I could do it in this way. It is literal array. Literal. We will talk about that. Literal definition of array. So I could use this curly brackets and put some values here. So for example, hello, world, any other words, any other strings here. So now, take a look to this syntax. We have open bracket, closed bracket, and we have three parts, three elements we call it. Element of array. Three elements in this one array. Okay, that's interesting. So how to work with that? I could output system out println. For example, first element of this array, and I could do this such way. So again, we have these brackets. Pay attention, here we have curly brackets, but here we have these square brackets. In most cases, we use these brackets. Please remember this. This is just exception using this stuff. Okay, so when we do this println, we will output to our console what? What do you think? Hello. Yeah, we will just output hello. That's right. Because you as a programmers should know and should like use maybe, I don't know, in even in real life, that we started to count elements from 0, not from 1. All common general people count things from 1, but programmers count everything from 0. So here we use 0. That's why in our for loop we have I equals 0 and so on. So here we use 0. By the way, in Pascal, of course, we count from 1, but here in Java and C++ kind languages, we count from 0. All right. So if I want to output this word, what should I, how should I call it? How should I access it? Yeah, so I will put 2 here, and I will access this third word in this array. So this is how it works, and if we draw our array in memory, it is like we have these pointers kind of here, and this is our array, and it takes memory. So in case we have just one string, we have just, let's say, just one block, but here we have combined memory to represent this array. So that's why we just put one parameter, that is kind of parameter number of element. So it is 0. Why 0? Because there is no indent here. We should add something from the beginning. We add something, add one element, and so on. So here we do not indent anything. That's why it is 0. That's why it works such in such a way in programming, because we just point into the very beginning. We should not move somewhere from the very beginning. That's why our shift is just 0, and that's why we call 0 element, because it is just starting from the very beginning without any indents, without any shift from the beginning, from the address at the very beginning of that array. All right. Next, let me show you how to declare or how to initialization, another important word in world of programming. So we know declaration, then another initialization. When we have this variable here, this variable is declared. So this variable we could use, but how to initialize, how to put value to this variable. So first I showed literal way to put value, literal. Please remember this. That was literal way to put value when we just put the value in the source code. And now I will show you another way, like more common way to assign values. All right, so array equals, and then tricky stuff begins. New. Then I take data type of this array. So here it is string. Then again open brackets, and then put your attention here. Now as I here just declare it variable. This variable is accessible. It is just not exist at this moment. Kind of exists in our source code, but still there is no any value in this variable. Here we're creating value for this variable, and that's why we should define how many elements will we have in this array. For example, I would like to have 5 elements, and I put this value here. So 2 points of your attention. New operator, new. It is like we take memory for in this moment we create a space. Think about that, consider that like new space for the variable when you use new operator. We use new a lot in object-oriented programming, which we will talk very soon about. But now we also use that for arrays. So new, it is first point of your attention. Second point, it is type, the same type as here. And third point, it is how many elements would I have in this array, and I say 5 elements. All right, so sometimes it is very useful to put not just literal, again, literal value. When I put 5, it is literal. It is just 5. I see it in my source code. It is literal. But sometimes it is more convenient to use a variable of integer here. So for example, I have variable size, and I could just put size here, that variable. That means that in previous lines I declared variable size, int size. I put some value here. So this variable now is initialized. This variable has value, and I just put this variable here in that brackets. So it is kind of start of automation of that process. So we don't know what value of size at this moment when we just creating the program. So maybe later in the program user will input that size, and we will create any array user wants. So maybe user wants 100 elements, or user wants just 10 elements. We could take this size, initialize this size any way we want. So here we just put actual size of our array. Okay? Again, you could do both of that in one line. No problem with that. So we have string curly bracket or just square brackets. That means that it is type for array. I have, for example, I would like to have contacts like array of strings when I put my friends with phone numbers there. And I create this new array just in the same line, yeah? I use again new string and the size, okay, again, or variable or literal, that would be 5, literal size, okay? So at this moment I declare it, contacts array, declare it, and initialized. So again, you remember these two words, declaration, initialization, right? So what initialization means? Remind me.
To make memory for a specific.
To make memory for specific, okay. To create kind of memory in our program on a computer for a specific variable also.
To give the
contents.
Yeah, to put contents in that memory, right? So we just put, in other words, we just put value in some variable. It is initialization. Without that, our variable kind of just empty, not initialized. We can't use variable without initialization. This is important topic. All right. Now, we created an array with 5 elements. 5 elements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's right. Okay, programmer. Starting from 0, ending with 4. So, tell me please, which values this array will have after this line? What do you think? Just after this line.
zeros.
Nothing.
Yeah, this is the question. So I will ask you, in other words, does every of these variables, because it is strings actually here, does every of that initialized in this moment? No. Exactly. So it is not initialized. So the same as here, when we create just not initialized array. Here when we just move to this first line, that every of these variables still not initialized. This important to know, because if we now will access that variable system out println contacts, for example 3, I will get error. Because come on, boy, you didn't initialize this variable here, this element of array. So please initialize that first and then use that. When variable is not initialized, variable has this specific type or specific, we call it null. That variable is created but not initialized. That variable has value of null. Null kind of 0, yeah? Null, null. This is it. So that variable is kind of empty. You could not use that variable. And in our programming, believe me, we have many problems because of null variables. That's why in modern languages it is even such a strict policies to become confident and sure that every variable is not null. For example, you move through some form, you put your name, surname, you want to get some, I don't know, sales card from some shop or something like that. And if you leave some field of that form empty, maybe that means that this value will go to null value into some variable, and somewhere you will get error and your application will be broken. So that's why now it is also a point of your attention. So be careful with variables, and if your IntelliJ say you or Java compiler say you, oh, you access variable which is null, it's not a problem. You just should know that, oh my, I just declared variable but not initialize that. This is it. I just, yes, this variable exists, but it is not initialized. It has just value of now. Okay. That's why when you create your empty array at this moment, you should of course put some values inside that array. You should put some values, so you could put contacts, 0, put some string here, make the same with first, second, third, and so on, and so forth. All right, so let me show you examples regarding that. So you see, by the way, this, let it be. So you see this declared already array of strings. I would have contacts, as I said, and I will delete this hello world line. So I have these contacts here. All right, let me declare variable size equals 5, for example, and then I put size here. So in the future, I would call my user to input size of contacts. So, all right, now what should I do? For example, let's create for loop. E starting from 0, E less, and now pay attention. Contacts, length. This is new. One more concept about arrays. When you create array and you want to handle that array, manage that array somewhere in your program, it is so useful to know the actual length of this array. Length, it is how many elements do I have in this array. Tell me please, how many elements do I have in my array on the screen?
5.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why contacts.length means just 5 in this context. And I could even print that for you to show. And that would be array length. Contact length or size. Let it be. Of course, I have this size variable. It is also, but here we are really sure that this contacts.length really contains length of my array. Okay, let me run this. Contact size 5. I didn't put space here, so that's why it is not very beautiful output, but you see that it works. Okay, let's move forward. And what could we do with our... So when we talk about for a while, when we go through the array, we call it traverse. Something like that. Traverse or move through the array. Traversing is very important concept when we talk about collections. How you traverse, how you go through all your data in your collection. So here we could use for loop to do that. We traverse through all the contacts, and we could put, for example, some value here. So typical use of for loop looks like this. So it's not very useful at this moment, but I will still try to use that. So I could not, of course, use I here, or I can. Oh, I can. That's great. So of course, basically, contacts I. So I element of contacts that is string, and I assign another string plus I. I is integer, but here we have type how to say that, приведення типів. Could someone help me like okay.
Casting.
Yeah, exactly. So here we have type casting. So we cast type integer into string. So that's why our I will be actual. Yeah, when we this value will become this value. For human it is just the same, but computer it is different values. So it is character, which could be part of the string. It is just integer value. So okay, so let me run. Okay, I will not run because it is still nothing to watch here, but then let me create another for loop and again traverse my array, contact lens, and let me just output the array. Now contents of contact are following. And here I will output every element of my array. So again, sound, system out println. Let me put like I here. It would be number. So I would like start like human from the 1. So that's why I will put I plus 1. Then plus, just put dot there. That would be number of my array, of my contact. I would like to start from 1, not from 0. So this is essence of my first part of output, and then just add contacts and I, right? Okay. So let's run. This is it. Size 5. Now contents of contacts are following. As I said, we're starting from 0 to show end users who are not programmers. We show them in human. Type our contents, and this is my elements of my array. Okay. Do you have any questions? Everything understandable? Everything okay? Yeah? Amazing. So now let me play with size. As we have just one variable which defines size, I could put 100 here, for example. Why not? And we could feel kind of the power of arrays when we could manage many variables which could be just impossible to manage without collections, without arrays. So I just put 100 here and I run again my program. This is it. You see how many elements I have now? Just few lines of code, and I still could manage with the same template, same pattern. I could manage every element of my collection or every element of my array here. Okay, this is the idea. All right, what should I say more? One more thing. One more thing. Okay, let's write search algorithm now, and let's search something in our array. String search. What will we search? You decide which string. We want to search, like in your contact book, you open your phone and you start to type. You want to find someone, okay? So let's search also. Okay, we have really not such exciting contacts here, but we still search something, all right? So what you want to search? Do you have ideas?
Contacts 88.
88.
Yes.
This. All right, let's do that. So now I will also use for loop. And again, I traverse my array, contacts, lens. So, tell me please, what should I put here inside this loop? My aim is to find that desirable element. which contains 88. What should I do in the body of the loop?
An if statement.
If statement, wonderful, okay. Next. Contacts
I contains
I, right. Then access string contains, wonderful. Then search, okay. Then we decide what should we do. So we will output that. So and we could output this specific contacts. What should I type next? I. Yes. Right. And by the way, here we could stop. If we want to search just one element, we could stop here. But maybe if we want just filter and get many elements, then we will not stop. So if I put break here, I will just stop my if at this moment. If I will not put break, my algorithm will still work and go through the rest of the array. You should understand that. That also kind of performance questions here. Okay, let's try. Run. So this is it. We found that contacts 88. I suppose that would be nice to put number of this number of the contact is what should I put next? I. +1, exactly. And let me take it into brackets because I make this integer operation and then string operation, concatenation of strings, combined strings. So that's why I put brackets here. Okay, let me run it one more time. Okay, we found that number of the contact is 89 and contacts 88. Everything is alright because 89 is human number, 88 is kind of computer number, so it works correctly. So the final thing, and we will move with our class task. So I could say, guys, I kind of hate this for. I hate to remember all this initialization of counter, second put condition here, put auto increment here. Oh, come on, or just increment. So I kind of hate this syntax. You should remember that. And in previous time when our IDE wasn't so powerful, so intelligent. So now, of course, I can put for E, and I already have this template. That's nice. But when you should type every symbol by yourself, it is kind of boring, but so boilerplate code. You just repeat this code many times. You type for again and again and again to move through your collection, to move through your collection, to move through your collection. So that's why in modern languages we have for each loop. We have this tip here, and I could use for each. I don't know why they make this break line, but nevertheless. So how could I use that? First, I put value of current element. Then I put, I don't like this. Yeah, that's better. Then double dots, and then I have actual name of my array, contacts. And then I could output, or I could use, or play with this element, handle this element somehow. Of course, if you want to change the element, you should still use for loop. But if you want just to access the value without changing that, for each loop, is just wonderful, I could say. It is much more better than this cumbersome for loop. So let me run it and ensure that everything is working. Yeah, 100 elements, so much. Okay, this is it. Yeah, this is found element, and then we have this output. So you see that everything is working. So you could use this to traverse your collection, to go through your elements and to output and to access values to that elements. So for each loop. But I just few moments ago I just hated this for loop. But let me remind you, you will have questions regarding for loop in your exam. So at this moment you should remember how exactly for loop works and which element. So you should actually remember that. So don't make me wrong. I kind of hate for, but I also love for. So it is just explanation why we should use for each. Okay? Do you have any questions? All right. Yes.
Yeah, for this.
Okay, just a moment, Maria, and then one more question online. Yeah.
Yeah, for each loop we cannot access to the number of like to the
Exactly.
like I.
This is the other side, negative side of for each. You can't know which number you're working. So in this case, if I still want to have counter, I should declare it. So I should declare counter equals 0, and then make this stuff by myself. But in this case, it is kind of have no sense just to use for loop for that. Yeah. So, but it is really good point. Okay, one more question from online auditor.
Yeah, what about reading memory location to avoid memory leaks, or Java has like inbuilt garbage collector?
Yeah. So what exact question regarding memory?
Is there inbuilt garbage collector,
Ah.
or you should free memory that you allocate?
Okay, yeah, Java has garbage collector, and you should not do it by yourself. So it is quite much more easy to program comparing to C and C++, exactly. Right, so this question was about garbage collector, what is that? A few words for everyone. So when we use a new operator, when we create additional memory in our program, in other languages, we should free the memory by ourselves. If in some point, at some point of our program, we decide, okay, I don't need this array anymore, you should use specific operator to free this memory. If you will not do that, you will have memory leaks in your application. You will run that many times, and you will get more and more memory, this garbage which nobody uses, and that kind sort of problem. In Java, we have automated garbage collector. That means that if I have no any pointers, if I have no any variables which looks to that memory, if this variable is not needed, I just run my method and there is no this variable, then automatically Java will free this memory by itself. So to have garbage collector is a good feature of modern languages. All right, it could be kind of bit complicated, but nevertheless, yeah.
Can we get index of the element of array in Java?
Index, yeah, exactly. This is the index, for example.
Oh, I mean, we have element. How can we get index of this element? Like we
You
have-
mean, for example, here?
Yeah.
It is just not possible.
So there is no like method like in Python which can help you get an index.
Do you have in Python ability to access index by element?
Yeah, you write the value of the element, like
point index. And
Okay.
then we-
Yeah, it is not possible here.
Yeah, they fixed it in Kotlin. They made for each indexed.
Okay.
Syntax is sugar.
Yeah, yeah. So modern languages, yeah, have a lot of syntax sugar and features. Okay, more questions.
Two questions. First, is this like a for more for a for an array?
For, I could say so. That in most cases we use for loop to go through collections.
So it
That's
just
absolutely true.
automatically sees how many chapters do we have in the array and goes through them. So we don't have to know the array length.
You mean this second for, like
Yeah.
for each? We call it for each. Okay, so let's call it for each. This kind of this for each loop exactly used for collections. Yeah, and for us as programmers, it is quite easy. We should not access directly length of collection size. We just put it here, and we know that now we will go through all the collection, all the array here. So exactly, it is kind of a bit easier to program, a bit less concepts needed to use. Yeah.
And how do we access a specific element of the array? This.
Okay, yeah, so maybe I should really explain that. So you see, one more time, please mention that. First of all, our array is here, right? So after this dot dot, we have our array. In every iteration, I have, by the way, now. In each iteration, we get new value of array in this variable element. You could call this variable as you want. Contact, or some friend, or any A. So you decide. You call this variable element now. And in every iteration, in body of this loop, we have variable element, which represents at this moment current element of our array. So we move through our array. On the first iteration, element will get this value. In the second iteration, element will get this value, and so on and so forth. Okay. So in this way, we access elements really. Good question, by the way. I forgot to explain you maybe in more details. Element is a current element of our array. Right. Okay, guys, let me remind you that in Java, you have such opportunity, such ability to pass even array inside without any problems, without any additional tricks. You could just pass array as a parameter inside your method. So, for example, you have int array somewhere. Somewhere you initialize that and so on. And you have method, I don't know, manage array. Public static void before that. And you would like to be able to put an array inside the method. What should you type here? If you want to put signature, we're talking about signature of the function. So, of the method, how could you explain what parameters are you waiting for in this method? What should I type?
Int with.
Yeah, exactly. So I just take this part and repeat that here. Then I call some name, a name for this, any name. This name will work just inside this method, I remind you. So inside this method, you use this name. This name have no any influence to outer world. You could choose any name you want. So this way, you could put parameters here, and even you could return arrays in the same way. You could put like return value int before and return array from to the outer world from this method. So it is just a reminder for you, okay? Do you have any other questions regarding that, or general questions regarding arrays? Yeah.
Is it possible to return variable values, for example, total and array terms?
Good question. Good question. So, in Java language, like in most common languages until now, from the method we could return just one value. It could be array, of course, which consists of many elements, but it is still just one variable. Okay. There are some languages which allow you to return multiple values, but not Java. So that's why you could return just one value of type, which you specify here in signature of your function. Okay? Right.